As James Russell Lowell said, "The foolish and the dead alone never change their opinion." People get stuck. They become so dogmatic. They become so convinced that they're right. And that feeling of being right gives them a sense of self-worth. And I'm telling you right now, with compassion, because I want to see you win, valuing yourself for being right is a trap. Thinking of yourself as smart is a trap. And I get it, man. I know how good it feels when you're right, when you had the right idea and it goes out and it wins. That feels so good. But if you can recognize that over time, it can only paint you into a corner, because the world changes, the world is adapting. The very thing that makes humans the ultimate apex predator is that we adapt. Charles Darwin said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but rather the most adaptive to change." You've got to be willing to change. You've always got to be willing to seek out disconfirming evidence. You've got to hunger for it. You've got to want to be proven wrong. You've got to literally invite people into your world that are going to point out flaws in your thinking, because your thinking has already taken you as far as it's going to. So if you want to get farther, if you want to get to that next level, you've got to stop valuing yourself for who you are, what you think, how smart you are, when you're right, when you're wrong. All of that is irrelevant. You've got to value yourself entirely on your willingness to admit that you're wrong. You've got to value yourself on your willingness to learn. You've got to value yourself for your willingness to sit humbly at somebody's feet and seek their wisdom. To not try to be the hero, but instead to try to be the one that collects the knowledge. When you can flip over into that, when you can value yourself for a willingness to stare nakedly at your own inadequacies, you'll start to make progress in life. But no matter how far you've gotten, no matter how much you've won, no matter how certain you are, no matter how much the things you've done in your life have proven to be correct, as Charlie Munger says, you must force yourself to consider arguments on the other side. You can always reject them. You can always look at it and really think about it and say, at the end of the day, it's just not correct. But when you're trying to hold on to your ideas simply because they're your ideas, or simply because they worked in the past, or simply because you like them, you will fall into a trap of dogma and you'll no longer be able to see fresh ideas and move in new directions. But if you're willing to acknowledge that this world is constantly moving, it's ever changing. The only thing true about the future, always and forever, is that things change. And if your thinking doesn't change, you'll never be able to keep up. So if you want to do something extraordinary with your life, step number one, always seek out that disconfirming evidence. Always look at arguments from the other side. If you're able to do that, then you'll always be able to stay ahead of the curve, and aging won't be a problem, because you're going to stay fresh in your mind. You become invincible when you bend and not break, and that's what this kind of mindset will allow you to have. So if you want to win, stop thinking about how you're right and start asking how you're wrong. As JBS Haldane said, "The world shall perish not for a lack of wonders, but for a lack of wonder." Everything around you is incredible if you're willing to look at it that way. Everything around you can be taken for granted if that's your perspective. But it really is about the frame that you choose to put around things. I mean, simply being alive is already insane. The odds are so stacked against you, not only just being a human, but being a human at this moment in time. This moment in time where breakthroughs in technology are happening at an unprecedented rate, where breakthroughs in medical science are happening at an unprecedented rate, where our ability to connect with people, to empathize with people all the way around the globe, all of the changes that have happened in technology and telecom and connectivity, health, everything. We're living in the most miraculous time ever. But you have to look at it that way. And as Joseph Campbell said, life is a wonderful, wonderful opera, except that it hurts.
So the question is, do you see it as the beautiful opera? Or do you just pay attention to the pain? And at the end of the day, you're gonna get what you focus on. They're both true. This is both the most amazing time that's ever happened ever in recorded history. And yet real things that are terrifying are also happening. But where you put your energy, where you put your attention, where you put your focus is going to determine what you see. And that is the most fascinating and the most important thing you have to understand about the way that your mind works. You get what you focus on. If you focus on the things that are bad, they will become real. They will become exaggerated. They will begin to monopolize your thoughts. You'll see them everywhere. It's called the reticular activating system. Your mind is literally designed to pay attention to the things that you notice. Once you notice a certain car, you see it everywhere. Once you notice a certain dog, you see it everywhere. Once you hear a certain name for the first time, suddenly you realize that that name has been all around you this entire time. But now that you're focusing on it, now that you're looking for it, it is everywhere. So whatever you look for, it's going to be everywhere. If you look for the negative, it'll be there. But if you look for the positive, it will overwhelm you. And as Joseph Campbell said, people say what we're all seeking is a meaning for life, but I don't think that's what we're really seeking. I think what we're seeking is the experience of truly being alive. And that's it. That's the juice. Figuring out that thing that makes you come alive. It isn't keeping up with the Joneses. It isn't how much you're getting paid. It isn't anything other than for you. Something very specific. It will be different for everyone, but for you. Find that thing that makes you come alive. Focus on it. Think about it. Put your time and attention there. Shift away from seeing the pain in the opera and instead seeing the wonderment in it all. Seeing the glory that is just everything around you, the opportunities, the fact that you're alive. Once you can see that those basic things that you take for granted, that you can breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, all of that stuff, once you start seeing how miraculous it really is, once you start seeing how we're connected to each other, once you understand that the name of the game isn't wealth, it isn't fame, it isn't ambition or success, it's neurochemistry. It's feeling a certain way. It's finding fulfillment in your life. Once you realize that, you'll understand this is a game of attention, and you entirely control what you focus on. So choose very wisely, my friends, because your life will literally become the summation of the things that you look at.
Your current skill set has already taken you as far as it's going to take you. If you don't put yourself on a path to learn and very aggressively, where you are now is where you'll be in 5 years. The key is crossing that chasm of skill set.
We're all afraid of not reaching our potential, of never becoming the person we know we were meant to be. We fear being left behind at our job. We fear never being worthy of love. We fear being stupid or emotionally weak. We fear not having enough followers and friends. We fear waking up one morning and realizing our best is already behind us. Or worse, our best was never very good to begin with.
Remember, you're an adaptation machine. Your job is to place yourself under stress and then force yourself to grow. So back to Mr. Yoked, you don't get those muscles by looking at the weights. You get those muscles by going under the weight and not stopping when it hurts. You stop when you can no longer recruit the muscles enough to move the weight. That's when you're done. Your job is to push yourself to the limit of what you think you're capable of and then go past that. And when you're able to push yourself past that, when you're able to get into the Goggins reps, as I call it, when you're able to exist in that zone, long past where it started hurting, long past when it got boring, long past when you were terrified that you'd never be able to do it, that's when you'll begin to adapt, because you're telling your body, adapt or die. That's how you're going to get where you want to go.
Nobody wins the Nobel Peace Prize, or writes a bestseller, or even lifts a barbell at the gym without feeling hopelessly incapable at some point. The reason they feel incapable? Because they are. The skills that they've developed do not yet match up with the skills they need to be successful. What separates these people that achieve these seemingly impossible goals is that they do not see their incapabilities as obstacles. They see them as opportunities.
As Les Brown says, other people's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. The truth is, all of us, we get to decide who we are. There's no objective truth that you're going to find or uncover. You're simply the collection of the things that you believe to be true about yourself. And once you begin to form that opinion of who you are, you'll act in accordance with that belief. You begin to shape a vision of yourself in your own mind, and that becomes the reality. So letting other people influence that, letting other people come in and degrade what you think of yourself is one of the most dangerous and damning things that you could do, because they cloud your ability to craft a vision of the person that you want to become. And that vision is so hard for all of us to hold on to that we have to protect it. We have to keep other people out of that. We've got to have intention in creating the person that we want to become. It's got to be deliberate. It's not about trying to reflect what you think is true. It's about reflecting what you want to be true. And once you have that kind of agenda going into something and building yourself into someone that you want to be, and you protect it and you don't let other people crowd it, then you can morph and evolve into something powerful, into something beautiful, into someone who's capable of doing the things that you want to do. And as Booker T. Washington said, if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. So while you have to protect yourself from others' opinions, going out and helping other people craft a vision of themselves that's beautiful, that's made of things that are real, that are authentic, things that you really see in them. It's not about lying to them to try to get them to believe something that isn't true, but it's about helping them see what could be. And when you're that kind of person, when you give with that generosity of spirit, trying to help other people shape their mind into something powerful, to have a vision of themselves that's exciting, that fills them with the sense that they can do it. Whatever that is, whatever dream it is that they're trying to make come true, if you can help them architect that vision, even if it's just with a simple compliment, even if all you do is say, well done, even if all you do is be the first person to clap for somebody when they do something, to help them up, to help them see a vision of something more than they are, that will lift you up. And then that becomes part of your vision of yourself. And then all of a sudden you're in this virtuous cycle of helping other people and feeling better about yourself and becoming something more simply by extending a hand to somebody else. So protect yourself from negativity and fill yourself with optimism and help others do the same. If you do that, you'll love who you are. As Thomas Jefferson said, he who knows best knows just how little he knows. And this has been one of the most surreal things about my experience as an entrepreneur, is that the better I get at it, the more that I do, the more I feel lost, the more I feel like there's too much for me to possibly know and understand. And in that is my power. That's literally the source of my power, because I understand that my journey is one of learning. I understand that, as Naval Ravikant said, the genuine love for reading itself, when cultivated, is a superpower. The means of learning are abundant. It's the desire to learn that's scarce.
But if you have that desire, if you cultivate that desire to learn, if you accept that you're in this big world that is far too big for you to understand every piece of it, but in recognizing that you don't understand it all and putting yourself on this quest to learn obsessively, to get better, to fall in love with the actual process of gaining knowledge, if you stay hungry for that at all times and you don't calcify your thoughts into dogma, but rather stay fresh, stay naive, stay hungry and foolish to really learn and grow, then you actually obtain power. And this is the part I want people to understand. Look past the words and hear what I'm really saying. As you take on the knowledge, as you're learning one thing after another, those skills have practical application. And it is that practical application born of understanding how little you really know that allows you to become far more powerful than the people that think they know. Because when they think they know, they stop growing. When they think they know, they calcify. When they think they know, their thoughts get brittle like bone and break. But when you think you know nothing, when you think you have to learn everything, when you're really just trying to figure out if something works, if it gets you the result, then those skills become real. They become tested by what you're doing. They are boundless because you're always trying to find that next thing. You're never self-satisfied. You're never self-congratulatory. You're simply asking, where do I want to go? What skills do I need to acquire to get there? And knowing that each one of those that you get, brick by brick by brick, builds a real path to where you want to go. So fall in love with the idea that you know nothing. Fall in love with the idea that learning is a superpower. Fall in love with that hunger. Want to get better every day. Never be tricked by the desire to be self-satisfied. Never be tricked by the desire to be great today. Never fool yourself into thinking who you are today is who you can become. I don't care how far you've come. I don't care how many accomplishments are in your rearview mirror. If you fall prey to that, your past will always be bigger than your future. And there is one mandate that I make of myself and anyone else that wants to be around me. Your future must always be bigger than your past. And the only way for that to be true is to love how little you really know and to love how much you can learn if you just keep going.
As Henry David Thoreau said, never look back unless you're planning to go that way. And that's how people get trapped. There's something inevitable about the way that the human mind works. It's going to try to draw you backwards. It's going to try to get you to focus on the bad things that have happened. It wants you to see your mistakes. It wants you to wallow in your mistakes. And I'll give it that maybe it has the best of intentions. Maybe its hope is that I don't repeat those mistakes. Maybe what it wants to ensure is that I do better in the future, but the problem is your energy goes where your attention is. And if your attention is the past, that's where you're going to live. That's where you're going to spend your time, and you're never going to be able to plan for the future. The future doesn't happen. The future has to be built. It has to be created. And if you're not taking the time to map out that creation, then it's going to happen by accident, and you're never going to get the things that you want. You're never going to become the person that you're capable of becoming. But to become that push, then you have to push yourself. You've got to make huge demands of yourself, and to do that, to have the energy to see that through, you've got to know what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And as William Faulkner said, don't bother just to be better than your contemporaries or your predecessors. Try to be better than yourself. But how can you do that if all you're doing is looking in the past? You've got to have an eye to the future. You've got to know who you are today. You've got to have the self-awareness, the presence, to look at yourself honestly, to accept what it is about yourself that is weak, that is inadequate, but without punishing yourself, without spending that time beating yourself up in the past, living there in the pain of what you got wrong, living there in the pain of all the things that have happened to you that were outside of your control that you didn't want. If you want to build something new, don't spend any of your energy trying to tear down the old. Instead, spend all of your time trying to build the new.
And that becomes the thing. It becomes the race against yourself. It becomes the race to see if you can make yourself better. You have a vision of who you can become, and you're constantly racing against that person. You're trying to become better than that person. You're trying to outperform your own expectations. And when you can do that, when you can set a bar that is ridiculously high and then become somebody capable of surpassing that, then, and only then, will you become the person you were meant to be? So put all of your time and energy into building you.
As Epictetus said, he is a wise man who does not grieve for things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. And that's gratitude, isn't it? It's the very base decision that we all have to make. Are you grateful for the things that you have in your life, or are you always wanting more? And trust me, I get it. I understand people that strive for more. I understand people that want something bigger and better. But at the same time, if you allow yourself to only think about what you don't have, to only be striving for something more, that obsession will begin to overtake you. It will begin to corrode you. But ultimately, it's a choice. Ultimately, at any time, right now, in this moment, you can stop and think about what you have. You can put your attention on the things that you're grateful for and watch what it does. Watch what it does in that instance, the way that it changes you, the way that it changes your chemistry, your feelings in a moment can shift from negative and dark to beautiful, with nothing else changing around you, nothing but you deciding that you're going to focus on the things you're grateful for, nothing but deciding that there are things in your life to be grateful for. And that is a decision. No matter what is happening in your life at any moment, right now, in the depths of a depression, in something going on terribly in your life, you could choose right now to think about the things you're grateful for. The breeze, a smile from somebody kind, a stranger who holds open a door for you, anything. But it's a choice. And as Einstein said, there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. And what choice are you making? What are you choosing to focus on right now? Do you let gratitude fill you up or not? And here's the critical part, and I want you to listen to this really well. Whatever you decide, whether you decide we live in a world of miracles or whether you decide you live in a world devoid of miracles, you are choosing one thing to the exclusion of the other. And when you focus on something that you're grateful for, when you look at those little moments in your life and choose to see them as grand miracles, even when it is only a gentle hand on your shoulder, even when it's only a kiss from somebody who you've kissed 1,000 times before, even when it is only holding the hand of somebody who needed their hand held, even when it's something that simple, it really is a miracle, that it really is something that can fill you. It really is something that will change your chemistry, bring a connection between two people, allow you to see a grander vista, or even just open a window and look out at the world and realize that you're alive, that this is all a miracle, that none of this is guaranteed, that every breath you take could be your last. And in that, you can choose to cherish what you have. In that, you can decide to focus on that you have a breath to take. And even when it's something that simple, when you train your mind to do that, when you train yourself to decide to see the beauty in that, then nobody can ever take it away from you. And no matter where you are, no matter what's going on in your life, you'll be able to rise up and feel the beauty that is being alive. So take a minute at the worst times in your life and focus on the things that you're grateful for.
Identity and values drive behavior. So if you want to make a change, you have to change your vision of who you are. You have to begin telling yourself a different narrative. And the narrative you tell yourself about yourself is everything.
Too many people get trapped, believing they're powerless over their circumstances. People talk about their troubles like they're happening to someone else, like they're a passive bystander in their own life, a spectator to their own problems. These people never take action because they see themselves as a victim. They feel that every situation is out of their control. And you want to know the dark secret? They like it that way because then they don't have to do anything.
And if you tell yourself that you're a scared, undereducated kid from Tacoma whose family has never accomplished anything, let me tell you what you will become. A scared, undereducated kid from Tacoma who never accomplishes anything, because that's what you believe. You tell yourself that story enough, and it will become real. But on the flip side, you could tell yourself a story of you're a learner. You learn faster than most people. You're willing to put in more work than most people. You're willing to read more books than most people. You're willing to spend an inhuman amount of time every day improving your mind simply by getting new ideas into the system. And that you will admit that you're wrong faster than anybody else, that you won't let your ego get in the way. And you tell yourself that story over and over and over. So when somebody comes and tells you how stupid you are, that you're just a dumb kid from Tacoma, you go, you're right, that's amazing. Thank you for pointing out that flaw, because now that I'm aware of it, I can improve it because I'm the learner. And once I switched my narrative to being the learner, it didn't matter where I started, it only mattered where I was trying to go. And as long as I had that clarity, then I could execute because I believed I could do anything I set my mind to without limitation.
Every time we form a new opinion about who we are, we're right. Not because our opinions are based on fact or even shared by the people that know us best. Our opinions about ourselves are correct because every time we believe something about our identity, it becomes our reality. We are constantly, subconsciously creating the reality of our existence. So why not create it consciously? If you had the opportunity right now, in this moment, to create an entirely new reality for yourself, what would it look like? Which traits would the new you possess? How would you react under pressure? And how would you push yourself to learn and grow? And how would you push yourself to grow and get better? That person you're imagining, they're worth becoming. So get to know them. Get in the habit of thinking their thoughts, of seeing the world the way they see the world. Because when you do that, when you get deep inside their mind, when you see things the way they see things, then you're really just becoming your future self.
Asking how you find your passion makes the assumption that your passion has been lost somewhere. Your passion has not been lost. Your passion has never been developed. Passions are created, they're constructed, they're developed. And it starts with interest.
One of the greatest misconceptions of our time is that your passion is something hidden inside of you. Michael Jordan wasn't born dreaming of slam dunks. Bill Gates' first word wasn't Microsoft. Even Elon Musk didn't start by reaching for Mars. But there is something different about these extraordinary minds. But it isn't what they were born with. It's something they had to learn to build, brick by brick.
Now, once you have that, you've got to start going deep into gaining mastery. And it's in the process of gaining mastery that you're going to find out if that interest turns into a love, then turns into a passion. People who are passionate are willing to fight through the boredom. Now, they're not doing it thinking, oh my God, this is so much fun. They're thinking, I want to win. I want to play at the highest level, and I am willing to break myself in half. And this is the thing that I cannot get entrepreneurs to understand. If you want to be great, I promise you, as Tommy said, you already have in you what you need, which is the ultimate evolution emotion-approved ability to adapt. So you can change to get great. You can change to become whatever you need to. But it is the people that are willing to literally break themselves in half to get the result that they want.
Your passion isn't something hidden inside of you that's going to reveal itself magically over a cup of coffee. It is not going to come knocking at your door. It's something you have to go out and build. And the people that have the discipline to do that, the ones that are willing to put in the hard work of building their life's meaning from the ground up, those are the ones with enough grit to really make it. Those are the ones that don't stop at just building a passion. Those are the ones that don't stop until they've changed the world with it.
La indicación del árbitro. Leo le pegó.
As Lionel Messi said, you have to fight to reach your dream. You have to sacrifice and work hard for it. That's coming from the man who has come to define natural talent. But that's what other people put on him. People want to see somebody who's just naturally talented. It's God-given. They were graced. They were blessed with something at birth. But what does he say when he's asked about what it took to become the person that he is? It took hard work. It took sacrifice. It took giving things up. It took doubling down. It took pushing himself every day, day after day. And that's the thing about hard work. When you put that kind of unending, blinding effort into something, it gets to the point where you've worked so hard that it looks like magic, that people would sooner believe that it's DNA, that it's gifted, that it is God-given, than to believe that they would have to work that hard to replicate it. But if you can stop making other people extraordinary as a way to let yourself off the hook, then you too can become extraordinary. All of us are capable of far more than we think. We're capable of more than the people who love us the most think. We are capable of more than the people who hate us the most would have us believe. At the end of the day, it is a very simple question you're going to have to ask yourself and answer for yourself. How hard are you willing to work? How much are you willing to sacrifice? But on the other side of that is power and energy. And as Kyle Rote Jr. said, if you're attacking, you don't get as tired as when you're chasing. And that's the key. When you know what you want and when you will not be held back from getting it, suddenly you go on the offensive. It's not about pleasing somebody else. It's not about chasing somebody else, becoming them, or even beating them. It is about yourself knowing what you want and attacking it, going after it, and not letting anybody dissuade you. It is looking at yourself and recognizing how you have to improve to get that good, but you've got to hunger for that goal. You've got to hunger to get across and win. You've got to want that the way that a man whose head is on fire wants a pond. And when you get to that stage, when you're able to cultivate something in yourself like that, something that is refusing to be extinguished, something that will be heard, something that will stand up and be counted, then you're going to have what you need to get the skills that you need to move forward, to win, to attack. And in that attack, and having the energy to move forward relentlessly, you will find that even though you're working harder than you've ever worked in your life, you're more energized than you've ever been in your life. The times where you fatigue, they're not the times you're working the hardest. The times you fatigue are when you're being least yourself. You're not being true to who you are and what you want. So right now, start being honest about what it is you're willing to attack. Start being honest about who you want to be, what you're willing to become, and the price you're willing to pay to get there. If you give yourself over to that, you will not be able to be stopped. All right, listen and listen well, because no truer words are ever going to be fucking spoken. You can do anything you want without limitation, whatever it is that you decide you want to make come true in your life, you can do that. It is going to take an inhuman amount of work. You're going to have to be prepared to break yourself in half. You are going to have to learn more than anyone has ever learned. You're going to have to push yourself harder than anyone has ever asked you to push yourself before. You're going to go way beyond your breaking point. You're going to run until you vomit. You're going to study until you fall asleep. You're going to push and push and push, and then you're going to push some fucking more. And when you hit the limit, you're going to push again beyond that. You're going to force yourself into an adaptation response. And why? Because as Malcolm X said, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. So if you don't put the work in today, if you don't do the unending, back-breaking work of developing yourself into something greater, the world is going to pass you by. The people that are going to own it are going to be the ones that did that work. And the one promise that I can make you right now is that somebody out there is outworking you. Somebody right now is doing the things that I'm saying. Somebody right now is doing the work of failing and getting up and getting better and pushing themselves and triggering that glorious adaptation response that makes humans the apex predator. Someone right now, they're putting in that work. And if you don't, the future is going to belong to them. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. It's not okay to make excuses. It's not going to slow people down. It's not okay to ask the world to stop so that you can step out front. It's not okay to expect little of yourself and demand great rewards. The only thing that's okay is to be in line with the way that the world really works. And if you want to be great, you've got to become capable of greatness. You've got to develop your skill set. You've got to take what you have now, and if that's crawling, then fucking crawl. But you drag yourself ever forward to a vision of yourself that is so clear and so specific that nothing could knock you off your path, because you, my friend, know exactly where you're going. You're willing to pay whatever price it takes to get there. And no matter what anybody says, no matter how many fucking hecklers come for you, no matter how many people try to throw dirt on you, try to stop you, try to knock you down, no matter how many fucking people come for you at night while you sleep, you will rise and you will keep pushing forward and you will get better every day. And no matter how many times people chop at you, knock you down, knock you off the path, you will get back on. You will crawl till you can walk, you will walk till you run, and then you will run until you fly. And that, my friends, is the only path forward. So if you want a fucking future that makes you happy, if you want a world that you're excited about, get your ass out there and earn it. As Helen Keller said, avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. The fearful are caught as often as the bold. So if you know that you're at risk no matter what you do, then you might as well be one of the bold, because the bold are the ones that get the thing that they're putting themselves at risk for. But if you're being timid, if you're standing back, and you're still likely to get caught, called out, lose, fail, be embarrassed, and you don't have the potential upside, then there's no advantage to being in that state. Fear begets fear. The more that you give into that, the less that you're willing to be bold, the less that you're willing to step out. Every moment that you spend hidden, pulled back in, afraid, that fear begins to magnify. That fear begins to feed itself. It gets in a loop. And that's when it becomes this indomitable force. And then suddenly the very thing that you're fighting against is simply the overwhelming amount of fear, which never would have become overwhelming if you had simply acted as if you were bold. At some point, that's it. You just have to strike. You just have to get up and take action. And it isn't that either one is safe. I'm not saying that being bold won't come with its price. It will. And that price may be extraordinary, but it will be no more extraordinary. In fact, I'll say it will be less than if you allow the fear to feed on itself, because just as the fear begins to reinforce, being bold begins to reinforce. One bold move stacks on the next, and suddenly, as your life progresses and you try more things and you fail and you learn and you get up and you grow stronger, you look back on your life. And even just 10 years ago, you can't recognize who you are. That
is the process of taking risk. That's the benefit of being bold and striking out. You will adapt. You will grow in either direction. Do you want to adapt to fear? Or do you want to adapt to growth, to change, to pursuit, to being bold? And as Marie Curie said, we must believe that we are gifted for something and that this thing, at whatever cost, must be attained. And that's how you get bold. That's how you take that first move. You choose to believe that in you is the ability to do something. And even if the only ability you can allow yourself to believe in is that you can learn, that's enough. That's enough to give you the impetus to take that first step, to say, I don't know this now, but I can learn this, and I'm going to take that first terrifying step in the knowledge that it's the step that educates. And that one step teaches me something that allows me to take step 2 and then 3 and so on and so forth. And sometimes there might be something even more. You might recognize in you something that you're already good at, something that you can build on, a strength that you can begin to magnify and go out. But that's where all of your energy should be on, the things that you can do, you can learn, you are good at. You're willing to go and push yourself to grow and get better at that thing. Put all of your energy there. Don't spend your time thinking about what might go wrong. Instead, think about why it must happen. Why does it matter to you? Why do you care enough to put yourself through this? Why are you stepping out? Why are you being bold? What is it that matters to you? Once you have that thing, that is the one gift. If I could just give, I would give, but I can't. It must be earned. You have to earn what you want. You have to know what it is. You have to do the work to find that thing, that interest, to turn it into a raging inferno of must have. That thing that at no matter the cost, you're going to attain. When you have that, you will find all of a sudden actions are easy. What becomes hard is stopping yourself. So put yourself in that position where momentum is the default.
You've got 2 choices in life. Choice 1, you can become somebody else. Choice 2, you can become yourself. Now, I really wish that there was only one choice, but in truth, there's not. And most people choose to try to become someone else because it's a roadmap. It's points in a direction. You see someone, you respond to something, you admire them, you want to be like them. And in that process, you've made your decision. In that process, you've decided to become somebody else. You have mistaken the finger for the moon. Instead, you need to understand that being inspired by somebody does not mean to become that person, to become that which inspires you. It is to understand fundamentally, what is it about that thing that excites you? What is it? What is its essence? And when you can find its essence, then you can find out how it would apply to you becoming you. And as Zen Shi says, a flower does not think about competing with the flower next to it. It just blooms. And that's really your job, is to see the outside world, to see the flower next to you, to understand the amazing things that are happening all around you, all of the incredible people and the essence of what they have, and what it is that they've done to bring inside yourself and find out what does that look like when it's me. Not what do I look like when I'm them. And once you understand the difference between that, then you can really begin to be something unique. You can become that thing that you were meant to be, that thing that makes you feel alive and whole. And that's it. That's the secret. You're just trying to be something, not that's just inspiring to other people, but that you actually want to wake up every day and be. And that's the fucking thing about it. There's no escaping you. Whatever you become, a lie, the truth, somebody else, yourself, whatever it is, you're going to spend every day of your life there. And as Albert Einstein said, everybody's a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. And that's what confuses people. People believe that they're dumb because they're not finding their path. They're not defining things based on what excites them and what they want to live with every day. They're just looking to what the outside world says is good. And I think it's incredible that there are other people doing things that are so extraordinary that we aspire to be like that. But you have to understand the difference between being like someone and trying to actually be them. So if what inspires you is that somebody works hard, work hard.
If what inspires you is that somebody gets up every time they fail, get up every time you fail. If what you like is that they are themselves with all their weird eccentricities and quirks, then be true to your eccentricities and quirks, but don't try to embody their eccentricities and quirks. That's the surest way to become the fish that thinks it's stupid because it's being judged by trying to climb a tree. So as Scott Belsky said, when 99% of the people doubt your idea, you're either gravely wrong or about to make history. And that's the terrifying part. You're not gonna know. You're not gonna know the difference. But if you're chasing somebody else's path, if your whole game is emulation, if your whole game is to mimic that which inspires you, you will never find the thing that's real about you. And look, I don't know about you, but I can be wrong. I can be gravely wrong. I can have people think me an idiot and try something and fail as long as it was true to me. Because then the lesson that I'm going to learn is going to apply. It's going to take me another step closer to actually being the person that I want to become, that I want to live with every day. But I can't be that if I don't understand who I want to be. So look inward, identify your path, identify what excites you, and go after it as if your life depends on it. Because in truth, it does.
There's a Norwegian proverb that says, "A hero is one who knows how to hang on for 1 minute longer." That's often the difference between those who make it and those who don't, or the people that stick with it long enough for success to present itself. Creating success is like a wrestling match, and at the end of the day, it's a game of endurance. And if you want to win, if you want to really see it through, you've got to be able to hang on for just that little bit longer. You've got to be able to go farther than other people. That's the only way that you're going to be able to get what you want in life. At the end of the day, the math of that just makes sense. If you let go, if you stop, you know there's no way that it's going to come to you by accident. Life is not a lottery. Life is what you create. It is quite literally what you make of it. But as Hans Selye says, it's not the stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. And when you're thinking about holding on and the stress that comes with that, when you're thinking about fighting and being in a wrestling match and locked in a battle to create something, what we think about is stress. We think about the pain, the difficulty. We think about whether or not we want to endure that thing. But it all comes down to how you frame it. It all comes down to how you think about it. And when you think about becoming that hero that you want to become, creating that thing that you want to create, in that moment, you've really got to ask yourself, how do you think of it? What's the frame of reference from which you approach it? And the people who really achieve success in their life, the one thing that they're able to do is really think about how powerful it is, how beautiful it is, the thing that they want, and that they can do it. That even if they're not the person they need to be yet, that they can become that person, that an obstacle is merely something that they'll learn from, that failure is merely a lesson, that pain is an instructor. That frame of reference around the suffering, around the stress. When you have that, when you have something that's empowering, it allows you to get back up. It allows you to build yourself, to grow from things, and really truly become capable of holding on for that 1 minute more, to become the hero that you want to become. But it was a process of building. It was a process of creating framework. It was a process of endurance. We all have to earn that endurance in our life. And so the question that you have to ask yourself right now, what are you doing to earn your endurance? And are you going to be able to hold on that 1 minute more? But at the end of the day, it's completely up to you. As Virginia Satir said, problems are not the problem. Coping is the problem. And I think that's the thing that really trips anyone up, is when you encounter a problem, the way that you react to it becomes an even bigger impediment than the original thing. It's the cascade
of emotions that captures people off guard. It's the cascade of neurochemistry that people think that they have to react to that feels so real that they can't imagine that that reaction is merely from one perspective, that it's not the only perspective. And in fact, if you shift the way that you're viewing what happened to you, you could have a totally different reaction. But people don't see that. And the reaction feels like the manifestation of truth. And that's how people get themselves caught up. That's why failure becomes something to be feared, because the failure feels negative. It feels like a loss. It feels like a death. Because it's the death of the ego. It's the death of the vision of yourself as capable of something. It's the death of your vision of yourself as perfect, as better than. But once you let go of that, once you're able to sidestep that and see the problem in a whole new light, to see the failure in a whole new light, you can have a breakthrough. And that's why Wendell Phillips said, what is defeat? Nothing but education. Nothing but the first steps towards something better. And when you can take that perspective, when you realize that the way that you look at the world will define everything about your existence, and that you choose, that it's literally a decision that you get to make, to choose the perspective from which you see something. So you can look at the failure as the death of something, as proof that you're not good enough, as proof that just like people have told you, you're not worthy. That's a perspective. And if you take it, you're going to see the truth of that. The truth of that will be laid bare before you. It will be evident for everyone to see, simply because you chose it. But if instead you choose to see that as a learning opportunity, as a chance to figure something out, to find out why you failed, to get better, to identify the lack in your skill set, and to fill that in through commitment, through practice, through discipline, to understand that what the human body and mind are designed to do is change. They're designed to get better. So suddenly the failure becomes instruction. It becomes education. And once you have that, then coping suddenly becomes very easy. It isn't the problem. The problem, in fact, becomes the solution. The failure becomes the thing that's going to teach. The failure is the instruction that you need to be great, to be worthy, to be better than people think you are. But it all comes down to your perspective. So, my friends, I beg of you, choose wisely.
Everybody needs self-esteem. In fact, what suicide is when somebody no longer believes they'll ever feel good about themselves ever again.
We talk of self-esteem in one of two ways, either as the sole determinant of success or as the ultimate enemy. Most people build their self-esteem around their accomplishments. They feel good about themselves if they're making the most money, they're dating the hottest person, or they've built the best product. They get caught in the rat race of validating themselves against the person who happens to be standing next to them. But there's a fundamental flaw with this equation. Because when your ego is that attached to your success, it's devastated by your failures. And what the most successful people know is you cannot leave your self-worth in the hands of anyone else. The most successful people get their pride from a different source, one that does not fluctuate with their successes and failures.
So I knew I couldn't give up my self-esteem. I couldn't accept some weird role where I just was always the dumbass sitting in the corner. If I pride myself on being smart and you tell me I'm dumb and you put up a pretty good case for it, that's going to damage my self-esteem. My self-esteem in that situation is very fragile. If, on the other hand, you tell me that I'm dumb and I build my self-esteem around being the learner, now I'm going to say, thank you. Please tell me in what way that I'm dumb, because you will open my eyes to something that now I can address, and I can go learn about that thing, and I will have a new skill, and I can go out and push and execute against that skill. One of the most powerful things that you could do is become the person that admits that you're wrong really fast. And it's crazy how much credibility you will earn with people simply by admitting I was wrong. Like 30 seconds ago, I was fighting so hard for something. I was really fighting for my position, and then somebody says something and I realize that's actually better. Imagine that. the more you try to tell me I'm dumb, the more areas that you point out that I'm weak, the more things you tell me I need to learn about, my eyes are open to something that, if true, I'm going to go down that path and I'm going to learn how to do that. And that is absolutely critical.
The problem with building your self-worth around being the best, the smartest, the sexiest, the fastest, is that you're never going to be the best at everything. The problem is, there will always be somebody who's better, faster, stronger, smarter. It's just the way of the world. At the end of the day, being the smartest person in the room doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is how you choose to grow when you're at your weakest.
People are wishful thinkers, but they hate to take the steps, or they take the steps and it's hard. Change is hard, and people come to a certain point, they break. So everything is making up your mind, mentally, and not giving up, but also physically pushing through your hardship, when it hurts.
Everybody, welcome to Impact Theory. Our goal with this show and company is to introduce you to the people and ideas that will help you actually execute on your dreams. All right, today's guest is one of the most decorated volleyball players in U.S. history. His rise to prominence, however, was deeply improbable. He grew up hard in communist-controlled Albania, and even though his father was a volleyball coach, there was very little opportunity in their homeland. After the fall of communism, the country was thrown into such chaos that in a desperate attempt to find an outlet for his talents, he was forced to risk his life just for an opportunity to compete. He snuck over the mountains into Greece to try out for a team there, and during his trip, he was shot at, hunted by soldiers, and chased by dogs. And even though that didn't stop him, intense racial tensions between the two countries saw him rejected without serious consideration despite his obvious talent. Devastated, he made his way back home, and realizing that bigger opportunities lay elsewhere, he and his family fled to the US not long after. Once in America, he began to flourish and quickly made a name for himself on the volleyball court, ultimately being offered a full-ride scholarship to USC. He was a starting player there for the nationally ranked team all 4 years he was there, and set a number of school records, including 164 career aces. He was a two-time All-American, and his senior year he was named the AVCA National Player of the Year. Following graduation, he played professionally in both Poland and Italy and was a member of the U.S. national team for 12 straight years. He played as a captain in 2 different Olympic Games, and as a professional player, he led his team to victory in the prestigious Italian Cup. So please, help me in welcoming the 2012 U.S. Men's Most Valuable Volleyball Player, Donald Sujo.
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Good, thanks for being here, man.
Glad to be here. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you're one of the rare people that I've gotten to know ahead of time, gotten a chance to sit down and pick your brain and hear a little bit about your story. It is insanity. It's literally insane. And I wore this shirt in your honor because your life is the answer to the question, no bullshit, what would it take?
That's good.
So first of all, tell me what it was like growing up in communist Albania.
Growing up, as a young kid, it was beautiful. We didn't know anything else. We had a great family, great sports. It was very quiet. There was no crime. It was clean. The only thing that I noticed being young, we were always hungry. Food was scarce, and I didn't know why. I didn't know why my parents didn't have enough food, but we were happy. We were running around the neighborhoods, playing sports, hiking on the weekends, and going to school, having a ton of different friends. But every time my dad used to wake me up, early in the morning at 4:35 to go buy food, and that to me sounded really strange. Why we have to get food so early? And I realized that afternoons when we go to the same store, there's no food left, and I'd watch my dad just give me his ration of food, his cup of water or tea or steak we had once a week to me because he knew I was growing, to me and my brother. So that was really strange. And what I remember too growing up there was one way of thinking. The government, we were owned by the government. As I realized, when I was a teenager, was that there was one way of thinking, one way of doing things. The government or the city council told you exactly how to think, how to behave, how to smile, what music to listen, what TV channel to watch, and how to react at school too for different types of news. And that was it was very isolated, you know, the ceiling was really low, there was no thought process to innovate or create or wanted to be the best, because if you went against the government rules, then you'd be thrown in jail, or your parents would go to jail. So it was very surreal, you know, to not have dreams. So growing up, we had no toys, no cartoons, we had one TV channel, one music channel, everything was made in Albania, from Albanians, by Albanians, didn't know the outside world at all. And you know, we had one pair of shoes or one outfit a year that the government would give us, or my parents would buy it. And that's all, you know, there was no shoes, you know, to go out in the snow. You know, where I grew up was big snow and, you know, kind of cold weather. And I remember every night I'd come back home from practice or school, I was just soaking wet, you know, from socks to shoes to everything else, and we'd dry them and wear them again the next day. So, and you know, it was just harsh, you know, it was very hard growing up.
What was it like when you finally come out from under that and you start to have dreams and you start to think like, whoa, my life could be more than this? Was there a moment where you were like, wait a second, I can do whatever I want?
But I didn't know how. I didn't know what the world meant. The world was a chaos for me. You know, as a young kid, people with guns, people getting shot, my friends getting stabbed in front of me, people getting killed. You know, we have a coffee or talk in a coffee shop, people would just drive by and shoot. Pure, not because they hated each other, it was just people were wild. You know, they didn't know what to do, how to react. You know, their brain couldn't take it. You know, their mindset was completely off.
I find that super interesting. So, especially because you then go to the US and your first reaction isn't, oh my God, this is amazing. You're like, I hate this.
Yeah.
So, help us understand, what do you go through mentally? Because I think this will reveal the way that the human mind works. The hunger for the familiar, the not knowing what to do when you have intense pressure and the no pressure. So, what you come to America, right, and then what? What are you going through mentally?
The first month, you know, people helped us. The church, the cousins gave us clothes, a house. I was sleeping with my parents in one room, you know. And after the first month, my cousin with a, you know, beautiful automobile comes in. It's like, are you happy? Are you good? It's like, my God, I love America. This is awesome. He said, okay, well, tomorrow you're going to work. I'm like, work? Why? He's like, who's going to pay for this? You. I'm like, you have a nice house, you have a nice car. Like, why am I supposed to work? I'm 17, I want to play volleyball. He laughed at me, he said, welcome to America, son. You got to work and pay for your stuff. So that changed my life forever, because from that moment on, you know, till now, that sentence, like, you know, has kept me alive. You know, the true capitalism, you know, the pure capitalism. You know, you get up, you work, and you pay for your own stuff.
You said in communism you didn't have mindset. What do you mean by mindset?
Mindset of, you know, to think, mindset to get better, to be the best, to dream, to work hard. You know, it was social, I mean, it was pure communism. You work certain hours, you get a certain amount of money, the government tells you this is your apartment for the next 50 years till you die, you get in pension, you die.
So you come to America, you end up doing extraordinarily well. What is the mindset that you begin to build that allows you to have that kind of extraordinary success?
Once I saw you, right, let's say like I saw Tom having a nice car, or seeing like all these kids have cars and a girlfriend and flowers and prom, and I'm like, wait a second, like, you know, like, why you have that and I don't? And I started asking this question to these people, and I realized how their process was. You know, I started learning the American mindset. And that's when I started detaching myself from being Albanian to becoming American. I made a pact to myself. I said, if I want to be successful in America, I got to be American. Keep my tradition at home, but once I step out of a house, I want to learn everything, how to speak, how to act, how to behave, how to have a girlfriend, how to work better, right, and more effective. Like I had my third job was a waiter at the Greek restaurant, you know, in Natick. All of a sudden, I'm making like thousands of dollars a month because I was working 3 jobs. And I'm like, well, is this real? Do I belong here? Am I American? Not yet, but I was on a road to become American.
How did you deal with that self-doubt? And that's something that, you know, we'll get to again when we talk about your injuries, but like, how do you deal with self-doubt of asking yourself, do I belong? Am I as good as these people? How do you overcome that?
In my opinion, you overcome that by outworking others, you know. I wanted to be successful, you know, and self-doubt is, you know, it's very dark places, right? At night, when I was a young kid, you know, there in Greece or Albania or Boston, you always doubt yourself. Even in the Olympics, you know, you always doubt yourself. Am I supposed to be here? And the next morning, I'd get up and say, like, you know what? This week I made X amount of dollars. I want to make more because I want this. You know, I wanted to prove myself. Those people are making fun of me. those people that cut me, those people that told me I would never make it, I'd use that and get up in the morning and outwork everybody else around me. Once I saw the opportunities, I said, there's no way you're going to beat me. You might be better than me now, but I'll just pure outwork, pure get up and outwork you day in and day out. And one of my dad's teammates had gone to Greece and sent letters. By then we just had handwritten letters and said, this is one opportunity I have for your son. Bring him to Saloniki, Greece, which was near my city. By car was 12 hours, I think, or 14 hours. So my dad searched around, and some of our friends used to do this business, bring people over the mountain for jobs and criminal activities, whatever you call it, right? And they said, son, this is it. I mean, we have no future here. There's nothing, there's no money, there's no rule of law, there's nothing. I mean, what are you going to do, play volleyball? No, nobody was playing sports, right? Said, you got to go. So we had guns and people were chasing us and it took us, I don't know, we left at 6 p.m. We got in like at 7 a.m. I think, or 8 a.m. I don't remember the time, but it was sun. And as we go over the mountains and we see like this black Mercedes. It was a beautiful Mercedes, which was crazy. This massive, big Mercedes. And then I do the math and I look around, I'm like, holy crap, we got like 12 people, where are they gonna fit? So my body was smart, he knew, it's like, go first, they go in first in the car. So they put 3 people in the front seat, about 6 people on the back, and the rest was in the trunk.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, that was the way to go in. And then it was like a 5-hour drive, and the same thing, because we're immigrants, as we drive, there's police, and it was like duck, so would you go like this, duck and get up the whole time, 5 hours, 3 people here. This guy was like just flying on the freeway and drops us off in the middle of Saloniki in this city, and I was like, oh, sweet, here I am. And my cousin picked me up, my dad's friend picked me up, and then I go try out for the weekend.
It's so crazy. So before the camera started rolling, you and I were talking about, what does success demand? And you said it demands everything.
Everything.
So A, what do you mean by that? And then B, so many people set out to be the best. Why did you actually pull it off? Like, what is it about you, your mindset, your work ethic? Like, what is it that allowed you to see that through?
It takes everything, and what is everything is your mind and your body. People are wishful thinkers. I want to be the best, I want to be rich, I want to lose weight, whatever that, the wishful thinking is, But they hate to take the steps, or they take the steps and it's hard. Change is hard, Changing your body, changing your mind is very hard, And people stop. And people come to a certain point, they break. For me, at young age, I created this, really massive amount of discipline, And also, at a young age, we were pushed so hard physically, and also mentally from the government. And that's why, like, when I walked that walk to Greece, I had all this, sacrifice that I've done, and I was like, that is my gold medal there. I'm going to go for it. My mind, I wasn't scared. My body was pushing, right? I was running, and I was sweating. I was scared, but I was like, it doesn't matter, I'm going to go for it. So everything is making up your mind mentally and not giving up, but also physically pushing through your hardship, when it hurts.
Now, it's incredible, and what it did for your career, obviously, is immense. Where it gets really interesting, though, is so you obviously smash records at USC, become one of the most decorated players the school's ever put out, and then you go and you play in the Olympics, and you guys do well, but you don't make it all the way. And then moving into Beijing, like a year out or 6 months out or something, you rupture your Achilles.
Correct.
Talk to me about that. What happens to your mindset through all of that?
Correct. Yeah. So to be in the Olympic team is, it's the most amazing thing for me as a human being, right? Especially coming from Albania. So making that team and representing USA, the country that first I hate and second I love to death, was an achievement that I'll, forever cherish, right? But to be an Olympian, right, you spend 4 years for 2 weeks, or maybe 1 week, because you might lose and get out. So it's a crazy workforce and discipline and mindset, right? So to be able to play in Greece and then go have a chance to go to China, I was blown away by my ability, right? When you call about self-doubt, I'm like, there's no self-doubt then. I'm like, man, now I'm the man, So I was the captain. I was at the peak of my career. We just lost in Athens, and as a group, we're a young group that joined the team in 2000. We were young in Athens, and then we made a pact to ourselves that we're going to win gold in China. We actually made a plan, how, when, why, right? And we went to work, and slowly, build that foundation. And in 2007, I was in Italy playing for the best team. I was a captain, making a ton of money, and then I turned, and then my Achilles snapped. I fall down in tremendous pain because there's two ways to rupture the Achilles. One comes out, you can walk and go to the doctor, or the second one is the hardest thing, it snaps in half. So I fall down and I see my foot hanging, and I can't move my toes. My toes. So I'm trying to, and I can't. I'm just crying because there's so much pain and shock. The doctor comes in, puts his finger in the Achilles, and just, it was just harsh pain. It's like, oh, it's your Achilles. And I knew it then, Tom, that Beijing is done. When he said that, I was like, no. And I just burst in tears. I'm like, man, 7 years to build this, the truly American dream and hardship, it's over in a matter of 1 minute.
Well, I want to go back. I want to know more about that process.
Okay.
So you do the injury. Is there a moment of self-doubt where you're like, I'm not going to be able to come back from this?
My self-doubt was like, I'm done with the USA team. And that scared me, because for me, that was the most important thing. Not professionally, not the money, being part of the USA team and that group of guys and that, that amazing tournament is just, there's nothing like that in life, because I already experienced it in Greece, and now I'm the captain of the team. So that was the number one self-doubt, and that, kind of stroke of fear. I had to sit 26 days with a leg up above your heart, not move, anything. And a lot of thoughts came to my mind, thoughts about quitting. I was 32. Thank God it wasn't social media back then. So, it can be good, good and bad, right? But, friends were supportive, but they're like, man, 32, maybe take the real estate test. Maybe think about the future, maybe think about that. And then once all these people start doubting and start pushing me away, even my parents, my parents were still conservative, working on a small job, in a small town, and say, son, awesome, man, you made it. Like, what else do you want? You're the man. Like, for Albanian, that you're God. And I said, but I want to be the best player in the world, and I didn't achieve that dream. Since 11, since 9, right? I'm like, my dream has been to be the best in the world. So why this injury will stop me? So I started researching. I said, what is the comeback time for Achilles? I started doing a lot of research, and I made a bet with myself. It was weird. One of these nights, in Italy, as I got better, I had to wait 2-3 months to fly back to USA. I was drinking wine, and I couldn't walk, still with crutches. And I said, you know what? It's going to be a test between me and Achilles. Honestly, that was like, I made a bet with myself. I'm like, who's going to win? So my mind started working on that moment of like, okay, how long does it take? What work do I have to do? How to do it? Where? And then once I had the plan, I just wake up every morning. I was the first one at the USA team, and ice and stretch, and the last one to go. So it was just a simple bet, me or the leg, and I won.
And so, okay, so how do you come out of that? You end up not going to Beijing, and how did that moment play out? How did that affect you?
So when at the Olympic team, every 4 years, the summer of Olympics, the coach comes in, brings all the guys, about 30, 40 guys that try out for 4 years, and then he sits down and tells the team who makes it or not. It's a very, very ruthless decision, right? I had a fear I was going to make it, right? But I thought, like, you know what, maybe I'll be the second setter, right? And the coach comes in and he said, put the list of the team, and I got upset the first time, Tom, that I became Albanian, man. The Albanian of me came out, and I just became angry and loud. I'm like, what the, why the fuck are you cutting me? Like, are you stupid? Are you crazy? And I'm cussing at the coach. He's like, he gets it. Thank God, he took the high road, just calmed me down, and we're just talking for 2 hours, and I was crushed. I kind of went back to that old mentality, and that summer I kind of gave up, That summer I was just drinking, playing beach volleyball for fun. It was weird. It was just very odd mix of feelings, and I didn't know how to control them. I had no idea. Back then I was engaged, and then break up with my fiance too.
Because you're drinking too much. And
everything, man. I was in a dark place. I was drinking too much. I was angry. I became this crazy Albanian guy again, and I was kind of alienating people and friends. I started doubting everything, right? And my Italian team that I was playing had a big contract for 3 years, massive amount of money. And they cut me. They said, we don't want to pay you. You're not ready yet. I'm like, I'm ready. Look at me. I'm jumping. I'm running. No, you're done. So that month of August was It was very dark, 2008. I mean, it was darker than Boston. It was darker than communism or chaosism. I was like, I made the dream. I was on top of the mountain, and then it was not a roller coaster. I mean, it took a second. I was nobody.
Don't you even lose your house in this period?
2008, I bought a house 2005, and I was very happy, house owner, you know, and then 2008 recession hits, and then my house devalued 50%. And I'm paying, and I didn't know about financials too much, you know,
Sure.
so I'm paying the same mortgage like 2005, 2008. So my house was half the value. I called the Bank of America, I never forget, because I went Albanian on the guy too. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, I'll find you. I'm like, what am I doing? This guy is in, I don't know, in Idaho, right? And I'm calling this guy, I'm like, how dare you take my money like this? Like, bro, like I cannot help you, gotta refinance. I couldn't refinance. And I was left alone, you know, lost the house. I mean, my fiance left me, which I love to death. My USA team cut me, I mean, not let me, cut me, right? Everything I worked so hard, the American dream, gone. Lost money, lost my house, everything. And I'm like, what do I do now? I just wanted to kind of get lost. Forget about Europe, USA team, and everything. I should be on my own. It was the best medicine ever, you know, because that's where you really find yourself, when you're on your
All right,
own.
so then walk me through that time. How do you re-find yourself? Because what I find so interesting about this story is it's mindset gain, mindset lost, mindset gained again. And, you know, it'd be so interesting for people to hear how you then come back out of this.
You got to hit rock bottom, when they say, right? And I realized that I was blaming everybody else but myself. I was like, man, I blame the coach, my fiance, the team, the Italian manager, everybody but me. First time in my life that maybe I'd become too cocky or confident, I don't know. But I realized I was blaming everybody else but myself. So I made another bet with myself. I said, from this moment on, I'll never allow anybody or anything else to dictate my life. It's gonna be my way. If I decide to do something and they cut me, that's fine. But it is my choice. I'm not gonna let the coach cut me or put me on the bench because he's gonna have no reason to. And I called the coach, I'm like, I wanna try out. I was 33, 34, the coach like, are you crazy? I'm like, I wanna try out. You put me at the bottom of the list, I wanna earn it back. And went to work, instead of getting a crappy contract, I went to Italy, got a cheap contract, and I proved myself again, and I became the best seller in the world.
Wow.
So, you gotta hit that, you know, it's about experience, Tom. I think like if you don't have that experience, if you're not confident to go through those experiences, right? When people go through tough times, they protect themselves. They go into this shell, right? Because we as humans, as you know, our mind, you know, from back in the day, was to protect yourself, you know, from fire, from fighting. So human mind is always kind of like risk is not good for you, you know, to go hike over the mountain, right? It's bad for you, right? Everything is bad. And I was like, no. I mean, I have to take this risk. I have to push myself. I have to suffer. You know, I have to sacrifice in order to achieve that success. Otherwise, I'll never be that guy that I wanted to. And
What does it take to be the best?
Everything. Everything. You can't, you're gonna have self-doubts. You're gonna have tough moments. You're gonna have everything. You know, you're gonna have people talking bad about you, people putting you down, getting cut. You know, it takes getting up in the morning and doing the same thing. You know, I understand people talk about a lot of mental toughness, right? Mental toughness, you meditate and stuff. For me, honestly, mental toughness is getting up in the morning and doing the same thing, day in and day out, day in and day out, for whatever it takes, whatever that goal is, you know. And by doing that, you become the best, you know. And it takes everything. I mean, you have to, the 3 S's that I love, you know, suffer, you know, a sacrifice, suffer. Like, you know, I remember being in Boston, I suffered.
What's the third S?
Success.
Okay.
Suffer, sacrifice equals success. You gotta suffer, you know, it's gonna suck, you know, like, I mean, I worked, 15 hours a day, I'll get up, you know, and then trying to stay in shape. Imagine that, as a 17-year-old European in Boston who spoke English. There was a lot of suffer, a lot of sacrifice. You know, I didn't have any friends or girlfriend or anywhere to go, right? I was just working, and then success came, you know, later because I had built this foundation. So it takes everything, you know, but it's not for long. You know, people think that to be great or to be something really good, it's a lifetime. It's not, you know, because once you achieve that, that's another thing, right? But by building that right foundation, day in and day out, you achieve something, and that leads to another thing, opens up to different doors.
That's really interesting. So, okay, now you finished your volleyball career. What are you doing now? Do you push yourself as hard? Do you have super high standards like you did in volleyball? What does that look like?
Well, standards are always the same. You know, I want to be, my motto right now in the business world is my math. Thank God my math was good. It's not great because once I passed the SATs, you know, I aced the SAT, but I failed the English test, right? So, and I remember my good math about making money in the hospital, right? And once I finished my career with volleyball, I say, well, I'm a two-time Olympian. People say a one-time Olympian is 1%, two-time Olympian is 0.5%. I'm like, wow, I must be special. Like I got to be confident in myself. Like I'm special, right? Not because somebody gave it to me, I earned everything. Well, now that's finished. I mean, once you finish sports, many athletes are depressed. Many athletes have a lot of problems because it's hard to find the same thing. It's hard to replicate 40,000 people and the adrenaline and the teamwork and the travel and people taking care of you. You know, like I never had to cook. People bought me tickets and food and trainers, and now you're done and it's gone. And you wake up in the morning and like, I gotta buy insurance, I gotta talk to my real estate agent, I gotta make an appointment for my doctor, I gotta go to the hospital for my kids, right? And I'm like, I want to be the two-time Olympian in the business world. That's my motto. So I bugged Dave Meltzer, who you might know from Sports on Marketing. I bugged him on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, it's sports marketing, and I was in Irvine, and I saw his company, I saw his video, and I'd write him every week a message on LinkedIn. Hey Dave, how are you? I'm Daniel Sujo, two-time Olympian. I'm looking for a job. I mean, 3 months, 4 months, he gave up, called me for an interview, had an interview in his office 3-4 times, and then it's like, you got hired. And I went to my wife after 6 months. I'm like, honey, I found this great job, sports marketing. I think I love it. I don't know. Till Dave told me, like, I'm not getting paid because his system is he has an unpaid internship. And I didn't know what internship meant. I mean, I didn't do anything. So I go the first day and it's like, look, you know, 6 months is unpaid, right? I'm like, what? It's like, you can do it part-time or full-time, but it's up to you. But after, if you show me sales and marketing, then I'll pay you. So I go home and my wife, I never forget, I have, you know, my wife, I have a 2-year-old, I have a 15-year-old boy, you know, I mean, I'm a dad, you know, I gotta.
And this, by the way, was the fiance that left you.
Correct.
You win her back because you get your mindset in the right place.
I'm persistent, man, I'm persistent, you know, I'm persistent, suffer, sacrifice, success, right? Whatever it takes, whatever field. And then we're together, happy, right? We have this beautiful house in Huntington Beach, and then I tell her, like, I'm not gonna get paid for 6 months. Like, are you crazy? And she told me this, like, are you crazy? Because she also grew up in Russia, communism, I met her in Greece, and she's European. For her, America is like first time moving here. She has no car, we have one car, and you know, it's kind of a messy time a little bit, right? Transition. And I say, honey, if I wanna be the two-time Olympian in the business world, I gotta learn the business world. And nobody's gonna teach me because I'm good looking and I'm an Olympian. I gotta go dive myself into it. So I thank God for Dave to give me the first opportunity and teach me sales 101. I mean, I was in a, at his room making cold calls. I was selling. I mean, so I built confidence in the ability to sell and build relationships and business development. And I was opening doors to C-level guys, you know, because it was kind of the same formula. Because I understood in the volleyball world, in the sport world, I made it. But what is it now? And it's exactly the same formula. And actually, I feel like in the business world, it's not easier, but it's more accessible. Because actually, in being an athlete, it requires a lot of physical activity, right? Day in, day out, you get injured. Where in the business world, that kind of a persistence actually pays off, you know, in a bigger terms, and actually being a good person, helping others, and building great relationships. So, right.
You say that it's the same formula. What is the formula?
The same mindset. You know, you sacrifice, you suffer for success. What does that mean? Making those cold calls, following up, you know, being a good person, helping others, you know, actually providing value to business, not trying to make the quick buck, you know, grinding it, you know, getting up in the morning. And, you know, I remember that we had a golf tournament with Dave in Scottsdale, and he said, like, we need to find sponsorships. I'm like, okay. So I went on Google and typed companies in Scottsdale, and I got their phone number, start calling and making phone calls when the other guys would go for lunch, or other guys would leave early from the office. At night, I realized that at between 6 to 7 a.m. or 4 to 6 p.m., actually people respond to emails. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm going to get up in the morning and write a LinkedIn email to the CEO or general manager. So it was the same format as I become an Olympian in the business world, you know. And I use that formula, you know. And now because I want to be that two-time Olympian in the business world, right? I mean, I got to work for myself. I realized, learning about you, impact theory, and Quest and your story and other people's successful stories. And one of my cousins told me, like, well, if you want to actually make it in America, you got to work for yourself. But that's a scary, scary lesson, man, because that's, not having that stable salary and being a dad and having kids, to provide, it's pretty frightening. But I decided to make the jump, building 2 companies. One is a sports fitness with DJ, and the other one is a English language centers around the world, very innovative, using AVR as a technology. And those are like 2, finally I find my purpose and passion, honestly. Finally, after 40 years, I understand where I belong in the business world. And building them right now locally and worldwide, so I'm very excited about it.
That's really cool. What do you teach your kids about success?
First of all, to get up every day and outwork others. Being a great teammate, being a great part of whatever team it is, wherever you are, at school, with your friends, at sports, being a great person around your teammates, And lastly, it's like, don't burn bridges. I told my kids, because I went through a lot of ups and downs, so I burned a few bridges by mistake. I've mended those bridges now, I went back and apologized, because I was in a dark space. But, I said, it's you're as good as the person next to you, You're as good as that mentor or business person or teacher or coach, alone is very hard to make it, And you live in a great country like America, where people will actually help you if you ask for help. But you got to show them that you are hardworking, a good person. And then success always comes, whatever that is, monetary or passion or whatever that is for you. It always comes if you do that work. But it's not going to come to you. Nobody's going to give it to you. And I tell my son, who's 17, and thank God he's going to go to USC and play volleyball. I said, just because you're going to go to USC, and just because I went there, the coach is not going to keep you on the team. I'm like, what are you doing this weekend? What are you doing on Monday? Are you running? Are you training? Do you have your research? Are you outworking others? Are you effectively getting better? And he looks at me, he's like, huh? I'm like, well, if not, you're gonna go to junior college. So it's your choice. So yeah.
I love that. All right, before I ask my last question, where can these guys find you online?
So, social media, normal, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I'm capital at DSujo, DSUXHO, number 7, both. So at DSujo 7. That's my number for USA team for many years. So.
All right, sounds good. My final question, what is the impact that you want to have on the world?
2 things, that I found my passion is, health and wellness and English language. Why English language? I want to help immigrants. I'm an immigrant. It was very difficult here to make it. There was a fine line that either I was going dark or I was going to be successful. And I want to be able to spread this message that, when things are hard, when you're in a dark place, there's still light. It's just a matter of switching your mentality, switching that thought process, and continue to work for the right thing. Especially, in USA, which is land of immigrants. I want to be able to spread that message and help those people to achieve their American dream. And achieve that either through teaching them English, which is the #1 language in the world, and we need to unite through language, so they can thrive in USA, and then USA can thrive from them. But also through health and wellness, like I want people to be active and healthy, because for me, sports was #1 reason that kept me alive through communism, chaosism, and democracy, right? So sports, sports is part of health and wellness, Through those 2 platforms, I want to be able to, motivate people to be active, to be culturally inclusive, to get better jobs, better education, and change that mindset, introduce them to the 3 S's, and it's not scary. Just because they sound scary, they're not scary, It's just the way you look at them. So that's hopefully I'll make the impact, yeah.
Donald, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
That was incredible.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, this to me is just one of those incredible success stories of starting with absolutely nothing, having to literally climb a mountain to get to the other side only to be rejected, to have to find his way in America, figure out what it's going to take, learn the 3 S's, be willing to suffer and sacrifice in order to make that success come true, and to be outworking everybody. Whenever somebody's narrative, that is the punchline, I totally buy into it, because that is really what it takes, and his life is proof of that. But what makes his story so extraordinary is 2008 when he loses everything and he's down on his luck and even his mindset is gone and he doesn't know what he wants to do. He hits rock bottom with the hose in Dubai. I mean, it's such an amazing image. And then for him to claw his way back and to make it back onto the Olympic team, to have to go back to the guy that you were pissed off with and berating and essentially, of his own admission, embarrassing himself in front of him, and getting that chance to say, okay, I'll start at the bottom and I'll work my way back up, and to have the same thing in his relationship and to build it all back up. It really is an incredible story. None of our lives are like this simple one-way trajectory. It is always ups and downs, and it is how you react in the down that is going to define you. And the way that he reacted is so powerful. I hope you guys took as much from that as I did. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care.
Awesome.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.